You're trespassing on HOA property." Those words froze me mid-swing, pruning shears still around the oak branch. My first thought was that I'd misheard, but no. The woman standing on my lawn, clipboard in hand, meant every word. She looked like she'd come straight from a real estate catalog, tailored navy suit, pearl earrings, expression sharp enough to cut glass. The crazy part, I wasn't even in her HOA. Never had been. Never would be. She introduced herself like she was addressing a courtroom. Karen Collins, president of the Riverside Heights Homeowners Association. You violated Section Y, didn't catch the number, just the tone authority coated in arrogance. I told her plainly, this was my yard, my tree, my property. She smiled, that thin kind of smile people give before they twist the knife. Our board recently expanded our charter. Your street benefits from our infrastructure, therefore you fall under our governance. She actually said governance. Something in me snapped. Lady, my house was built in 1970. Your HOA didn't exist until 1995. You can't just annex people because you feel like it. I thought that would end it, but she just handed me a paper covered in legalese and a $500 per day fine. I called Officer Williams' local cop old friend. When he pulled up, Karen talked fast, citing codes she made up on the spot. He listened, nodded once, then looked at me. "Mr. Harrison, are you a member of this HOA?" I shook my head. "Then, ma'am, you're trespassing. Leave before he presses charges." Her face stiffened. "This isn't over," she hissed before marching off like a general retreating with dignity. Robert, my elderly neighbor, shuffled over once she left. "She won't give up," he warned. "She's forced 3 families into her HOA already. Has friends on the zoning board and city council." I laughed it off, but that night a text buzzed on my phone. "You think you won today? Check your mailbox tomorrow." By morning, I had 3 envelopes stamped with her HOA's logo, stacked fines, threats of legal action. Accusations that my property hurt neighborhood values. I took pictures of everything. That's when I called Judy Coleman, a no-nonsense attorney who'd helped a buddy with a land dispute. When she heard I'd never joined an HOA, she actually laughed. "Good," she said. "Then we fight." She studied the letters, frowning. "This regulation she cites doesn't exist. It's a failed proposal. She's bluffing, but she's smart. She counts on people being too scared or broke to hire counsel." Judy typed while talking, already drafting a cease and desist. "From now on, document everything. Every call, every visit. We're building a harassment case." That night, Robert called again, voice shaky. Karen held a secret meeting. "She's planning to falsify city records, claim your lot was always inside HOA lines." I met him in his garage. He handed me a crumpled draft. "Got this from the trash. Don't tell anyone." The paper was worse than I expected, legal citations twisted into nonsense, but clever enough to fool officials. "She has someone inside city planning," Robert whispered. 2 days later, a city employee named Thomas Carter phoned me. "Mr. Harrison, we're reviewing a potential boundary discrepancy. You'll receive notice soon." His tone told me everything. Karen had pulled strings. That night, an anonymous email hit my inbox. "Follow the money. HOA, Financial Records, 2019. I opened the attachment, a ledger full of consulting fees to a company that didn't exist. The harassment got physical next. Someone smashed a window in my workshop, but stole nothing. Williams filed the report, avoiding eye contact. I saw the unease Karen's reach had spread. Then came the blow that nearly broke me, a lien filed against my property for unpaid HOA assessments. My bank froze my line of credit. Judy's jaw clenched. She crossed into felony territory, but clearing it could take months. She wants to drain you dry. For the first time, I considered giving up. My business was collapsing, my savings bleeding into legal fees. I sat under the oak tree, the one my grandfather planted, wondering if maybe she was right. Maybe fighting was foolish pride. But then I found his old note tucked inside the deed. True boundaries exist in the mind before they exist on maps. Guard both. That single sentence yanked me back. She wasn't just stealing property, she was erasing the idea of ownership. I couldn't let that stand. Judy and I went on offense. We found others, Marcus Walker, a retired engineer, Elena Vasquez, a florist fined for non-compliant planters. Henry Wright blackmailed into joining. We met secretly in Marcus's barn. Judy laid it out like a war map. We file a class action lawsuit. Harassment, fraud, racketeering. Federal jurisdiction. We make her regret every fake regulation she's written. Evidence piled up fast. Carter risked his job to hand over original and altered property maps. They showed digital tampering lines shifted to include homes that never joined. Judy filed for an injunction. The court clerk's eyes widened at our documentation. "This is massive," she murmured. "Good. We wanted massive." Karen hit back hard. She staged a community meeting flashing doctored photos of my deed-edited audio clips that made me sound guilty, and she had help from Robert. My stomach dropped when I saw him standing beside her feeding her papers I'd shared in confidence. I confronted him outside later, and he broke down. "She faked my tax debt," he said. "Blackmailed me for years. I didn't know how to stop." He handed me a small recorder. "I've been taping her. Every threat, every order." Those recordings were gold. On them, Karen bragged about altering records and breaking property owners until they complied. Judy's eyes gleamed when she heard them. "We've got her," she said simply. Court day came. Karen strutted in with 3 lawyers calm as a snake sunbathing. Her attorney opened by accusing me of falsifying documents to avoid legitimate HOA obligations. Judy let him finish, then rose with quiet precision. "Your Honor, we have the originals authenticated by 3 experts." She displayed the unaltered deeds beside the fakes. The judge frowned. "Mr. Blackwood, these photos appear manipulated. Do you have originals?" He hesitated. "The originals are in Mr. Harrison's possession." "Good," the judge said. "Let's see them." Then Judy played the recordings. Karen's voice filled the courtroom cold, calculating. "Alter the records. If the city balks, I'll handle it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. When Thomas Carter testified about being ordered to falsify data, Karen jumped up shouting, "He was working for me! He can't!" The judge cut her off sharply. "Are you admitting you employed a government official to spy on citizens' silence?" Her lawyer's face turned gray. Finally, Robert took the stand. I could barely look at him, but when he spoke, his voice was steady. "I betrayed a good man out of fear, but everything on those tapes is true. Karen Collins runs this HOA like a crime syndicate." He held up his immunity agreement. "I'm done being afraid." The judge didn't hesitate. Effective immediately, all actions by the Riverside Heights HOA concerning non-member properties are suspended. All liens are void. This matter is referred for criminal investigation. Karen's perfect mask shattered. "You think this ends me? I have connections you can't imagine," she shouted as marshals guided her out. I stood there, heart pounding not in triumph but in disbelief. Months of intimidation, legal warfare, sleepless nights, and it ended with a few sentences from a calm judge. Outside, reporters swarmed, Judy cameras flashing. I stayed silent, staring at the courthouse steps, slick with rain. I'd won technically, but the cost hung heavy. Robert's betrayal. My lost income. The paranoia that still twitched in my nerves, it all lingered. Later, Officer Williams stopped by my workshop. "FBI's raiding her place," he said quietly. "They found shell companies across 4 states. Looks like you weren't just fighting a bully, you exposed a network." I nodded, too drained to smile. The next morning, news footage showed Karen in handcuffs yelling about conspiracies as agents hauled boxes of evidence from her home. Weeks later, word spread that the HOA voted to dissolve. Without her, and without stolen money, they couldn't survive. Neighbors I'd barely spoken to before knocked on my door apologizing, thanking me. I didn't feel like a hero, just a tired man who wanted to sand wood and breathe again. The oak tree still stood where it always had, roots deep branches wide. I ran my hand along its bark, thinking of my grandfather's note. She'd tried to rewrite boundaries with fear and paper, but truth had deeper roots. And in the end, it wasn't just about a tree or a property line, It was about reminding people that ownership, freedom, and courage can't be annexed by anyone with a clipboard. And an ego. Some fights aren't about winning, they're about proving some lines can't be moved.